You guys don't need to worry about me getting revenge from Diddy. I've got 3 moves that make sure he'll never be able to come after me or my family. First, I personally reached out to the victims' legal teams. The real reason he's not getting out is those buried cases behind the scenes. I provided legal funding for 7 victims who had been silent for years and brought in the top criminal attorneys in the country. Second, I bought up every potential post-release business deal he had lined up. I planned this 2 years in advance, so by the time he got sentenced and still had hope of getting out, every partner had already cut ties with him. Third, I don't just have evidence, I've got backups. This is an entire minefield that's been buried for 20 years. I uncovered every secret from the last 30 years. With testimonies from the victims, we interviewed over a dozen people he tricked, threatened, or violated. You think that's harsh? No, he destroyed other people's lives for decades. I'm just making sure he spends a few extra years in prison for it. I'm not afraid of his people, not afraid of his threats. I know he's still in there fantasizing about a comeback, but the truth is, he's never coming back.
I'll put you in one of the movies. I need a crackhead for the new scary. I need a crack and a meth head all mixed together. You're perfect. I need someone that looks like a wet Muppet. That's what I need. I need crack and meth together. I need creth together. I want someone to look like they'll sell your car, rob you, and suck your all at the same time. Soulja Boy.
For myself and Soulja Boy. He in the building, I got all this paperwork. I check out everything that's going on with him.
For years, the clips were public. The jokes were loud. The rumors never fully disappeared. Yet no one connected them with intent. In 50 Cent's new documentary, the focus isn't shock or scandal. It's the system that kept questions buried while power remained protected. By revisiting Sean Combs and Soulja Boy through patterns rather than accusations, the film asks a sharper question. If so much was visible for so long, why did it take this moment and this narrator for serious examination to finally begin?
Netflix releasing never-before-seen video of Sean Diddy Combs filmed just days before his arrest on charges of trafficking and racketeering in 2024. The footage is part of a 4-part docuseries, Sean Combs: The Reckoning, premiering Tuesday.
How did you get that footage of Diddy?
I figured most journalists would not disclose their sources.
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt he knows.
So when this airs, that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day. Perhaps.
Combs' team firing back in a statement to NBC News, saying the Netflix so-called documentary is a shameful hit piece and that they relied on stolen footage that was never authorized for release. His team sending a cease and desist to Netflix.
$15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, you know, one thing led to another, and I was like, yo, all right, well then, you know, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary. And he definitely don't pay, he determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. I was like, oh, so if it's not his documentary, and I spoke to him like that, I don't need to be doing nothing with you. Because I'm doing this on the strength of him. But you gonna pay me if I do it. So it went back and forth, you know what I'm saying, for a little bit, and then they had Kirk Burrows giving me calls and everything like that. What are you calling me for? You know what I'm saying? I'm not, get out of here. I know what kind of dude you is anyway. Me and you cool and everything, Kirk, but don't call me about no business with this stuff like that. And then what I found out is that he was making a deal, cutting a deal for himself as well as Tim. You understand? And I was trying to get a deal for all 3 of us. You understand? So that's how them industry cats go. You know, that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at it like this. So then he called me back again, and I told him, like, listen, man, don't you ever call my phone again, Kurt? You know what I'm saying? Because we had got into it about somebody calling him. He told me Groovy Lou called him and want to know why Gene's still doing this to Puff and everything like that. And I mentioned it on the Gene Deal show. You understand? I said something. Then he called me back like I was lying. And listen to me, Kurt. Don't call me about what these clowns and these niggas say right here, bro. I had nothing, and especially don't call me talking about what I gotta fix, when in fact, you know what you told me and you know what our conversation was. You know what I'm saying? So the whole thing about why I'm not in the thing, the lady was talking greasy to me. She had no right to talk greasy to me. And then she told me that 50 didn't have the power to do anything, but they using his name to like push the whole documentary. And that's what it was about. So that's why you don't see a cameo other than the pictures they used of me on the film in the documentary. I got like 3 or 4 pictures in the documentary that I've seen of myself. You know, some people say they saw more, but I know three different times where I was certain places and you could actually see me in the documentary, and that's the only thing you're gonna get. But the stories that they told in the documentary, bruh, come on. They could have went a whole lot deeper. They could have did a whole lot more. So I ain't in the documentary because that lady that was the director, I think, what's her name? Alex, Alex State, you know her name, Mighty?
For years, the fragments existed in plain sight, party references, provocative jokes dismissed as trolling, shifting timelines, and a culture trained to treat discomfort as entertainment. What didn't exist was permission to connect those fragments without being attacked for asking. In 50 Cent's documentary, the story isn't carried by a single explosive moment. It's carried by repetition, the same names reappearing, the same circles staying protected, the same rumors surviving because no one with power had incentive to clarify them. This is not an accusation. It's a map of how narratives are managed when curiosity costs more than silence.
Want to poison Jamie Foxx?
If you know that you have, well, just to give some insight to people watching, when you come under federal investigation, they send you a target letter. You know, you get informed that you're being investigated. So if you wanted to tie up loose ends and you were concerned that people that you knew could incriminate you, you may have interest in eliminating them. We've seen this all throughout history.
I mean, this sounds kind of mafioso stuff, but I sense that you're talking from a lot of experience here, that you genuinely believe this is a highly dangerous situation involving a highly dangerous man with very dangerous people acting on his behalf, potentially.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely speaking from experience. This is definitely a highly dangerous situation because this guy was the middleman. He was the party guy. He was the person who lined up the parties and festivities for a lot of guys a lot more wealthy and affluent.
Diddy built more than a brand, he built a system. A network of access, introductions, opportunity, and influence where proximity itself becomes a prize. In these environments, access turns into currency. Silence is traded for protection. Loyalty for relevance. Presence for momentum. Power doesn't need to announce itself when it's embedded in the room. And once influence becomes infrastructure, questioning it feels less like inquiry and more like betrayal.
So, you know, I'm a person who believes that the Epstein's list is very similar to Diddy's list. I'm a believer in that. And, you know, whenever it comes to protecting women and children, I'm going to be fierce. Big ups to my sponsor, Stallion Gear, for putting up funds to help us go out and help people. You know, I want to salute Michael Franzese because he's probably the only famous person who donated to our campaign for protecting women and children, going down to the orphanages and passing out toys and gifts. Because at the end of the day, us as men, we must learn to police ourselves in our own community, because if not, these type of activities will continue to run rampant. I know this situation is dangerous. I've had several attempts on my life throughout my career. And you know, where there's one dangerous guy, there's a group.
You referenced earlier, I have a history of heinous acts against people who behave like that. What did you mean by that?
Well, there's a lawsuit that I'm listed in where allegedly I quipped Combs about his sexual deviant activity, and I protected the plaintiff and pointed a firearm at Mr. Combs. That's what the paperwork says. They don't have their facts right, but, you know, I have a reputation for...
50 Cent's documentary leans into a quiet reality. Power rarely threatens openly when it can make refusal feel expensive and questions look like disloyalty. The implication here is social before it is legal. Normalization is how systems protect themselves without leaving fingerprints. When access is the reward, who is truly free to ask what that access costs?
Big verdict for us.
Yeah, so this is
our case.
Yeah, man. So for those that don't know, give us a backstory. So Soulja Boy, and for one, this is already like a $4 million case. But give us the backstory on the sexual assault and everything.
So Soulja Boy beat and sexually assaulted 2 different women. We represent both of them. The cases were consolidated, but at the 11th hour, they filed a motion to sever, which means to separate the cases. So the first case went to trial, and the jury returned a $4.25 million
and this
verdict.
Is an assistant?
This was an assistant that became a girlfriend.
Right.
And the other victim is the mother of his child. So,
just the DA, how could they not pick up a case that seemed like it's like severe enough that we can go and see this on criminally, there's nothing happening, but you can go and see the civil lawsuit, you know?
I'm gonna tell you why, Big, because when it comes to these types of relationships, whether it's physical or sexual assault, oftentimes people think, well, why did the person stay?
Right.
You know?
We blame the victim.
Yeah, you blame the victim, man. And then, you know, why are they raising the allegations now? Let's not forget, no one believed Cassie Ventura until we all saw that video.
Right.
They thought, listen, this is an ex. She's just trying to shake down a rich and famous celebrity. You know, she was with him for a decade. You know, our victim was with Soulja.
The documentary frames Soulja Boy not as a villain or a victim, but as a case study. An era of fast fame, unstable leverage, and visibility that could be amplified or withdrawn, depending on who benefited. This does not prove wrongdoing. It explains risk. When relevance becomes survival, people become easier to steer, easier to isolate, and easier to recast as clout-seeking or problematic the moment scrutiny gets too close. If someone can be declared irrelevant overnight, how...
Actually, I'm coming in contact with, like, that's what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like 150 hugs.
You're a public person as well, and there was one instance in Harlem, and his reaction when those people
went away.
Got in
the car and said, I feel like I need to wash, like I'm dirt. That was, it shows you his character.
Was that the reason for including it?
Yeah, I mean, what's the odds that you would do that in front of the camera? Like that's one of the moments where he forgot he was on tape.
How do you respond to people who say that it's more about the disdain that you have for Sean Combs than it is for giving the victims a platform?
What they consider a pre-existing beef, right, for 20 years, right, is me being uncomfortable with him suggesting that he takes me shopping, or I looked at it like it was like a tester, like maybe you'll come play with me, type of thing, right? And it's not personal.
I think it's important to also let people know that the show is not completely the perspectives of people that did not like Sean. We weren't trying to just get the highlights, the salacious details, you know, that the real goal was to storytell. And not everyone needed to have an allegation to be a part of this project.
The 4-part series also features 2 jurors from Combs' trial who are speaking for the first time about how they reached their mixed verdict, finding Combs guilty of 2 prostitution offenses, but clear of racketeering and sex trafficking charges, both sharing their thoughts on the relationship between Combs and singer Cassie. Juror 75 describing them as 2 people in love, and Juror 160 saying in part, domestic violence wasn't one of the charges. Cassie, is she a victim in all this?
I believe Cassie's a victim in all this because she came in she's like 18, like 19 years old. In the very beginning, after a while, over time, you condition for it.
The goal of what the film is trying to do is to let the audience kind of come in to to ask questions like, were their decisions colored by certain things, and who got the benefit of the doubt, in that courtroom?
Do you think that hip-hop culture was on trial as much as Sean Combs was?
Look, if I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as...
Public mockery often grows loudest where private vulnerability is least safe to discuss. Jokes become weapons, cheap, viral, and reversible only for those who never carried real risk. When serious questions are reduced to insults, the audience stops seeking truth and starts choosing sides. That shift quietly protects the system. 50 Cent is not portrayed as a moral authority, but as someone who understands attention and how distraction is used to keep deeper questions from forming. When careful speech is unrewarded, who is left willing to speak carefully?
So usually when you notice Puff was in those kind of violent relationships with his females, this been going on ever since 2-3 years. This ain't just something that just happened. This ain't the first fight. It ain't the last fight. Yeah, I noticed all. I seen a lot. I seen him walking with scratches and bruises on his face. And you be like, who scratched you up, dog? Who's scratching you? What, you had a fight with a cat? What's going on? So he put his hands on females, put his hands on producers, executives. That's just his. I guess that's what the whole name Bad Boy comes from. That people don't really understand. What is it? What is a bad boy? Why did he choose that name? He never really gave a clear definition of how he feels about that name. Not yet. Could be bad business, bad friendships, bad blood, all of that kind of bad stuff. You know what I'm saying? Bad boy.
Yeah, man, terrible, man. Just hearing that. I mean, and it's coming from you too. You somebody that, you was close to Diddy and you was on Bad Boy. So, yeah, man, it's heartbreaking, man. How you feel about the two victims that came forward accusing Diddy and Aaron Hall of raping her? When you hear stuff like that, you're not surprised, huh?
Not at all. Not at all. I seen I had to take a second to really reflect. And I wanted to see, did I see these kind of things in his actions when I knew him or when I was around him? Did I see him have those bursts of violence? Just not on, you'd be like, he did it. If you've seen that, it was another video. He won some, he just over cocky. That's why he got fired from Uptown. He's over, what do you call someone who's overly confident? To the point to where it's called arrogance, right? He's arrogant. Nothing wrong with being arrogant, but when you're arrogant and you do it in spiteful ways, then so when I seen that and I reflect, and I'm like, man, I do remember seeing him being physically violent towards females. I seen him be physically violent towards producers, other record execs, even artists. Always those kind of stories, man. But those stories are seen from the inside out, not from...
In the documentary, rumor is treated less like random gossip and more like a recurring route, moving through the same rooms, the same circles, the same party ecosystems where status is reinforced. The film doesn't ask viewers to accept whispers as fact. It asks them to notice endurance. How long a story can circulate without being addressed, and how that circulation itself becomes leverage. Without documents, legal implications remain limited. But socially, ambiguity can be powerful. If rumor can damage without proof, who benefits from keeping the public...
So when he came to the counter, I said, yo, I'm finna see what this motherfucker this mofo is putting in his bag, because I know he gonna have to take everything and put it on the counter so the dude could count it, right? My man, when he came there, he gave the dude a wad of hundreds like this. You know what I'm saying? He gave him a wad of hundred and just put it up there. The dude ain't even, you know what I'm saying? He ain't even want to know what was in the bag. I was like, yo, wow. So then we was catching a G4 jet. We had to go to the Astra because we was catching a G4 jet and we was going to North Carolina to do this show. So somehow he had Ja Rule to go with us, you know what I'm saying? And him and Ja was talking. And this whole time him and Ja is talking, he talking about Ja going at Jigga. You know what I'm saying? This is crazy. But he was talking about Ja getting at Jay-Z. And he was talking bad and talking crazy about Jay-Z, and how Ja was talking about if it wasn't for him, that Jay wouldn't be the artist he was. He got him started. You know, he wrote certain things and stuff like that to put him out there, because, you know, back in the day, nobody was even effing with Jay like that. So, but Puff was trying to, he was adamant about Ja going at Jay. You understand? So we get to the hotel, we're in the presidential suite and all this stuff like that. So Ja and him is, you know, chilling and everything with Jay, eating and everything, shit like that. So then they all went to the room. It was like him, Ja, Sarah, and her girlfriend. They went to the room. I don't know what they were doing in there. I didn't give a shit. But Puff told me, Gene, do not let nobody come in this room. Don't let nobody come in this room. So hour or so went by, whatever like that. Time went by. The doorbell rang. And it was this dude at the door saying that he was Ja's cousin. And I was like, he said, I'm here for Ja Rule. I said, who you? He said, I'm his cousin and everything like that. He said, I said, but yo, he busy right now. I'm telling the dude that he's busy. You know, the dude is talking about, yo, but I want to talk to him. I said, yo, bro, they don't want to be bothered. You know, I'm trying to, you know, tell this kid, yo, they don't want to be bothered, bro. You know what I'm saying? He said, yo, but that's my cousin. You know what I'm saying? I said, well, listen here, bro. They're in a room.
A shift occurs when the documentary moves away from internet noise and toward traceable material, public posts, known interviews, dated moments, patterns placed on a timeline even when meanings remain contested. The tone hardens without sensationalism. The method is quiet, show the evolution, then recheck it. This isn't a courtroom, but it borrows a courtroom discipline, verification. And when verification enters the conversation, narratives stop being fully controllable. If ambiguity is the industry's shield, what happens when audiences start asking for receipts instead
A
of...
lot of people have been waiting to hear what you have to say since this trial commenced. So let me just start by asking you that very question. It's been running now for several weeks. What is your view of how this case is going?
I think it's kind of becoming a circus, and with all the allegations, and now with everybody explaining like what's happening in the bedroom, I mean, every day it just sounds crazier and crazier and freakier and weirder, right? And I'm like trying to understand, with all this being said, like with Kid Cudi going on and saying everything that happened, but then ended up saying Cassie played both of us. It's like, where are we trying to go? Are we just trying to like tell all of these crazy stories and then that equals out to sex trafficking? I mean, it's starting to become outrageous. It's a RICO case. It's really only Diddy and maybe one other person. Like, I'm just starting to feel uncomfortable and I'm starting to feel weird about this whole thing.
Well, it was certainly interesting last week when I interviewed this guy who had the pseudonym The Punisher, who was hired, and it was Cassie Ventura. Right, so it was a sort of very interesting interview because Cassie Ventura did all the negotiating, did all the payments and did all the texting to him. Diddy would sit in the corner of a hotel room naked and he would watch, with her apparent full consent, this guy come in and have sex with her. And it happened maybe a dozen times over a 2.5-year period. Now, none of that says to me that that is a serious crime. If she is the one that is organizing it all. Now, she is arguing it was coercion and so on. You know all these people very well. You know Cassie Ventura. You know Diddy well. When you saw that interview, maybe you saw the one that I did, but when you saw that guy talk, what was your takeaway from that?
I was just thinking, like, what year are we in? Like, it feels like we're in this vortex of like this dominatrix story.
Silence in celebrity ecosystems is rarely accidental. It's strategic, managed by teams, buffered by legal caution, protected by the unspoken rule that preserving the brand outweighs clarifying the truth. Diddy's influence isn't framed as a single act, but as an atmosphere where people calculate what they can afford to say and what they can't afford to acknowledge. When scrutiny rises, the response isn't transparency, it's distance. Silence can protect victims, but it can also protect power. And those—
Yeah, I don't believe he giving him the bond either. I mean, another black billionaire, bro.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard on them, you know. It's gonna be hard on them. All they doing is building this law to take more of us down. That's how I feel about it.
But you don't think, look.
I think they building this law against Diddy to take everybody else down. Everybody else do the same thing Diddy was doing. We fly bitches in, we fuck them. When they leave, we give them money. We do everybody in the fucking, who has a Leo on it before his name, motherfucker.
The documentary's most credible posture is restraint. It doesn't demand belief in every claim. It demands attention to the system that allows claims to persist without responsible examination. Accountability here is structural. Who supervised? Who enabled? Who deflected with humor? Who benefited from keeping boundaries informal? And who profited from the public staying confused? The legal line remains careful because records matter.
A publishing number. If you had a publishing number, I don't give a fuck who you is. If you an artist, you done committed all that shit. They just billing that on him so they can turn it around on us.
Huh.
You flew a bitch out. For what? Over state lines. For what? Sex. After y'all engaged in sex, you gave her money to get back. She has the proof of the cash app you sent her. Now it's Mad Day. Sexual traffic. Just from you find your bitch in and she get mad. All the feds, if they won't do to you, all they gotta do is go to that bitch and make her turn, man. All they gotta do is go to her. When you done dogged her and say, look, woo. They don't even.
But the social line sharpens. Influence has consequences even when no verdict exists. If safeguards repeatedly fail wherever power concentrates, responsibility doesn't disappear, it diffuses. The question becomes unavoidable. Is accountability limited to individuals who move through the room, or does it extend to the machinery that keeps building the same room over and over?
For like Heavy D, Mary J, things of that sort. So we were very active in that, and that kept us very busy in that time to do that. And what happened along the way, we had a lot of success, got fired from Uptown. I was there, helping him to build back up again. Loyal, no betrayal, no stealing, family, his son's godfather. We were renegotiating Bad Boy. We had gotten over CCNY. It looked like the coast was clear. We were renegotiating with Arista. We were about to get a step up in the money. I had 25% of the company. I didn't know why he needed to get that back from me and then give it back to me again. I didn't understand that. That's like a trick. Like, okay, here, I gave it to you, now give it back, and don't worry, I'm gonna give it right back to you. I didn't want to give it up. So he came into my office one day unexpected, him and Kenny Marsalis, they had it planned out. Kenny had the briefcase with all the stock certificates in it, and Diddy had the bat. Not like I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with the bat, but he had the bat like, man, we got to do this. This has to happen. I didn't feel I was gonna get beat down in that office, in all honesty. I got people that can jump out of the shadows in a minute. I wasn't threatened by him. What I was messed up over was the fact that I started this company with you from day zero, and now the one solid thing that you told me I had, you want to take that back and do a return to me on that at this critical time that we're renegotiating and getting a step up on the contract. When he told me it was about all of that renegotiating and that I should trust, I did, begrudgingly, angry, upset. It wasn't right. I did it. He got the stock back. I went on, tried to get over that, kept doing my job, doing what I had to do, delivering everything. And once again, I was caught up in the job. I forgot all about it. And next thing you know, we had the snafu. I was fired. And he just said, oh, okay, bye. And since he had never given me the stock back, he never said that he would pay me anything or give me anything. He just avoided me.
Hidden for years doesn't always mean hidden from everyone. Sometimes it means hidden by everyone through distraction, selective outrage, career incentives, and the habit of treating discomfort as gossip until it can't be ignored. 50 Cent's documentary doesn't close with a verdict because that isn't the point. It closes by exposing the mechanism. And if the industry only confronts patterns once control is lost, what else is still being labeled rumor simply because the record hasn't been allowed to surface?